This directive comes from Brussels, saying that all EEC members must conform to some niggling European word processing standards. They will have to agree to the plans of masses of European word processing committees at the forthcoming European Word Processing Conference in Brussels. Well, say something.
Yes, Minister.
Quite so. Is that all you want to say?
Well, Minister, I'm afraid that is the penalty we have to pay for trying to pretend that we're Europeans. Believe me, I fully understand your hostility to Europe.
I'm not like you, Humphrey. I'm pro-Europe. I'm just anti-Brussels. I sometimes think you're anti-Europe and pro-Brussels.
Oh, Minister, I'm neither pro nor anti-anything. I'm merely a humble vessel into which ministers pour the fruits of their deliberations. But it could well be argued that, given the absurdity of the whole European idea, that Brussels is in fact doing its best to defend the indefensible and to make the unworkable work.
That is simply not true, Humphrey.
Huh?
I don't want to sound pompous, but the European idea is our best hope of avoiding narrow national self-interest.
That doesn't sound pompous, Minister.
Good.
Merely inaccurate.
Listen, humble vessel. Europe is a community of nations dedicated towards one goal.
Oh.
So may we share the joke, Humphrey?
Oh, Minister. Now, let's look at this objectively. It is a game played for national interests and always was. Why do you suppose we went into it?
To strengthen the brotherhood of free Western nations.
Oh, really? We went in to screw the French by splitting them off from the Germans.
Well, why did the French go into it then?
Well, to protect their inefficient farmers from commercial competition.
It certainly doesn't apply to the Germans.
No, they went in to cleanse themselves of genocide and apply for readmission to the human race.
Never heard such appalling cynicism. Well, at least the small nations didn't go into it for selfish reasons.
Really? Luxembourg's in it for the perks. The capital of the EEC, all that foreign money pouring in.
Very sensible central location.
With the administration in Brussels and the parliament in Strasbourg. Minister, it's like having the House of Commons in Swindon and the civil service in Kettering.
If this were true, why would the other nations have been trying to get in?
Such as?
Well, take the Greeks.
Actually, I find it difficult to take the Greeks. Open-minded as I am about foreigners, as you both well know. But what will they want out of it? An olive mountain and a Retsina lake.
I just don't accept any of this,
Oh, I'm
Humphrey.
so sorry, Minister. I suppose some of your best friends are Greeks.
No, very dry. The trouble with Brussels is not internationalism, it's too much bureaucracy.
But the bureaucracy is a consequence of the internationalism. Why else would there be an English commissioner with a French director general immediately below him and an Italian chef de division reporting to the Frenchman and so on down the line?
Oh, I agree.
It's like the Tower of Babel.
I agree.
No, it's even worse. It's like the United Nations.
I agree.
Then perhaps, if I may interject, you are in fact in agreement.
No, we're not.
Brussels is a shambles. You know what they say about the average common market official? He has the organising ability of the Italians, the flexibility of the Germans, and the modesty of the French. And that's topped up by the imagination of the Belgians, the generosity of the Dutch, and the intelligence of the Irish. It's all a great big gravy
Well, in any
train.
event, we'll have to think of something to make the public think kindly towards administration because of the Europass.
Quite.
Europass?
Europass?
European identity card. What? Bernard, surely you've informed the Minister of
Minister, didn't you do your boxes last night?
No, I was redrafting the redraft of the draft.
Well, briefly, Minister, Brussels is about to decree that there should be a new European identity card to be carried by all citizens of the EEC. Now, the Foreign Office is quite ready to go along with it as a quid pro quo for a deal over the Butter Mountain, the Wine Lake, and the Milk Ocean. The Lamb War and the Cod Stink. And quite obviously, the Prime Minister wants you to introduce the legislation.
Me?
Yes, well, it's well known that you're pro-Europe, you see. And it would simplify our administration enormously in the long run, so it's a good idea, don't you
Good
think?
idea.
Good idea.
Good idea.
Not a good idea?
Political suicide.
Trying to make British people carry compulsory identification papers. They'll say I'm introducing a police state again. Is this what we fought 2 world wars for, Humphrey?
Well, Minister, it's really little more than a sort of driving licence.
It's the last nail in my coffin, that's what it is.
You might get away with calling it Euro Club Express.
Bernard,
Why do we have to introduce it? Can't the Foreign Office do it?
Well, in fact, that was the Prime Minister's original suggestion, but the Foreign Secretary thought that this was a Home Office matter, and the Home Office took the view that it was essentially an administrative matter, and the Prime Minister agreed.
They're all playing pass the parcel.
Can you blame them when you can hear it ticking?
Well, I'm afraid that the identity card bill is planned to be the last action of this department.
Wonderful ammunition for the anti-Europeans.
Yes, don't the Foreign Office realise what damage this will do to the European idea?
Well, I'm sure they do. That's why they support it.
Well, surely the Foreign Office is pro-Europe, isn't it?
Yes and no. If you'll forgive the expression. The Foreign Office is pro-Europe because it is really anti-Europe. The civil service was united in its desire to make sure that the common market didn't work. That's why we went into it.
What are you talking about?
Minister, Britain has had the same foreign policy objective for at least the last 500 years, to create a disunited Europe. In that cause, we have fought with the Dutch against the Spanish, with the Germans against the French, with the French and Italians against the Germans, and with the French against the Germans and Italians. Divide and rule, you see. Why should we change now, when it's worked so well?
That's all. Ancient history, surely.
Yes, and current policy. We had to break the whole thing up, so we had to get inside. We tried to break it up from the outside, but that wouldn't work. Now that we're inside, we can make a complete pig's breakfast of the whole thing. Set the Germans against the French against the Italians against the Dutch. The Foreign Office is terribly pleased. It's just like old times.
Surely we're all committed to the European ideal.
Really, Minister?
If not, why are we pressing for an increase in the membership?
Well, for the same reason. It's just like the United Nations, in fact. The more members it has, the more arguments it can stir up, the more futile and impotent it becomes.
What appalling cynicism.
Yes. We call it diplomacy, Minister.